Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Franzgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is From Code to Customers. How can you use AI to grow your small business without needing to be a tech expert? Our guest today is Rahel Gunaratne. Rahel is the founder of WebIndexer, and he is a software engineer graduate with deep expertise in AI, data science, and full stack development. With a proven track record of innovation, he has led multiple AI-driven projects from concept to launch, including a 3D desktop AI companion, a role-play auditory web app, and an AI chatbot designed to enhance customer engagement. A winner of 5 AI hackathons and a contributor to an AI startup, Rahel blends research, analytics, and product development to push the boundaries of AI-driven solutions. Rahel, welcome. And do you have a favorite quote or saying?
I do. It goes back to my younger days watching Spider-Man and Uncle Ben saying, with great power comes great responsibility, which I think applies in a lot of situations here because AI nowadays is so powerful and can put you in really powerful positions, but it's very dangerous for other people to follow blindly. The responsibility lies with those who are leading to make sure that they're giving the right information and doing the right things.
So startups and small businesses, I know you're although the audience might not be able to see you, you're fresh and smart in a good way. How can a startup and small businesses integrate AI into their space easily, or even with a bit of pain, which is not bad?
Yeah, so there's so many different things you can do with AI, specifically with language models. Since they generate text, you can actually use that text to do practically anything you want because you can just get whatever you need to do from that language model. It's very different for each business. I've seen companies that use Reddit autoresponders. For example, if someone is expressing a need for a product, a Reddit bot will go and write a message, say, hey, we have this product for you. So that's one practical use of AI, automatic lead generation, content generation, editing your content. There's so many little things that you can do, even with just ChatGPT, which is the bare bones of what you can do with AI. So looking into those things, we can do a deep dive, but at a base level, if you're using ChatGPT, you're already ahead of the curve for most businesses.
What are the misconceptions sometimes people have about it? A lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's the Terminator getting unleashed. We're obviously not into the robot phase of development here. There are unfounded fears in that space for people.
Yeah, so we're getting to the robot phase, but one of the biggest misconceptions is the capabilities of AI. It's not grounded in any sort of ground truth. Anything that it's generating or saying is just, oh, this word seems like a good word to say, but really there's no basis for that. And so we run into a lot of issues of reliability and accuracy when we actually put those AI into production processes. That's one of the biggest misconceptions I see when I'm dealing with businesses. AI is not all-knowing, magical technology. You have to train it for a very specific use case, and you need a lot of data for that specific use case for it to function in that specific way. And it's very hard for companies to have that sort of data just lying around in a clean format to make sure it can do that. So yeah, biggest challenge is to make sure that you have the right data and that you have a very specific scope that you want to use the AI for.
Tell me about customer engagement. I hear the word customer engagement a lot in AI, and I don't always know what that means.
One of the nicest things about AI is that you can use it anywhere at any time. No longer do you need to be waiting by the phone for somebody to call. You can have an AI agent that's ready to respond at any point. So you're improving customer engagement because they're ready to talk whenever they want to. In that way, you're boosting customer engagement. In addition to that, you don't need to hire customer service or sales rep to handle those sides of things. You just make sure that the AI agents have the right information and that they can respond to queries or answer any questions regarding your product or services.
Is it agnostic or is it help some industries more than others?
Oh, definitely some industries more than others. It's very bad for AI to deal with critical businesses. If you're a doctor, you don't want a language model to diagnose you, because if that diagnosis is wrong and nobody's checking that diagnosis and you're given prescription medication that might end up killing you, that's fairly critical. So in that industry, it's not a very good idea to do that because there's that reliability issue. But there are tons of other industries where information you're getting can be checked or verified against other sources, and you can make sure it's not going to be critical that it's incorrect. So in those industries, AI is very useful at the moment at doing those workflows.
How do you stay just beyond the curve?
Yeah, it's really hard because there's so much content out there, and every news media is very interested in grabbing your attention. So even minor things are treated as the most cutting edge. So it's really hard to find the things that actually matter. It's important to find sources that you know are accurate in their information dissemination, more so than just try this new product out. Some of the sources that I keep up with is some tech newsletters as well as some Discords, because generally when people start talking about those new technologies, that's when you know that there's something brewing, that there's something important going on. So yeah, keeping in touch with the community more than the newsletters, in my opinion, is the best way.
How do you separate deliverable and smoke?
Yeah, it's not easy. You can try it out. And a lot of the time, when you try something out and you realize, oh, wait a second. For example, someone will claim, oh, this can read your PDF file and it can output the text in a very good format. And then you go and you try it out. Does it do a good job? And a lot of the times, the data sets that are used to train models, they're very specific and they don't actually generalize well outside of that data set. So if you try something slightly different and it just doesn't work at all, then you realize, oh, okay, yeah, it's very specific to that scope of things. If that's the scope that you're looking for, then it's perfect.
So hackathons, that's an interesting term. And I understand it from the software side, from those that do coding. Is that another term for crowdsourcing and everybody's trying to achieve a certain goal, or is it a free for all? What's that all around? What does that entail?
It's interesting that you mentioned it's a crowdsourcing way, because some hackathons are known to be a cheap way for companies to solve problems without spending a ton of money on machine learning engineers. There's also a benefit to it in that you can, so yeah, it's basically a competition, and hackathon is a bit of a name in the coding industry for competitions. Usually there's some project or problem to solve, and they might give you themes to follow or technology that you have to use. And you have to come up with some sort of project that addresses those problems with that technology. Then it gets judged according to some criteria, and the best one wins.
What kind of drew you into this space? Some people want to be doctors, some people want to be mechanics, some people don't know what they want till maybe they're 45. What brought you into the software universe and specifically AI?
Yeah, it was actually my high school teacher, Miss Forrest. She ran a computer science class in high school where we learned C and Java. I remember we were learning for loops or the bubble sorting algorithm. I didn't know what a for loop was, so I ended up coding it all with if statements. It was about 600 lines of code of if statements when we could have just done 3 lines with a for loop. I submitted that and she was like, what are you doing? This is not the right way. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, okay. It clicked in my head that you can make it much shorter. From there, I realized I really liked coding and I was actually good at it, barring the first little bit that I went through. My brother was also a big inspiration because he was in engineering physics, and I would watch him while he was coding for his university projects. It was always very fun. I also got into competitive coding as well. There's just a very satisfying feeling when you're working on a project and you bring something from your mind into practice, and then you can display it and share it with others. This is a nice feeling.
Tell me about web indexer.
Yeah, one of the paradigm shifts we're seeing today is people no longer have to go searching for an answer to a question they might have. They can just ask that question to some sort of chat, and the AI will search for the answer and tell you in the context that you're looking for. We're seeing that paradigm shift across so many different levels, from internal tools to Perplexity to ChatGPT. So Web Indexer is an attempt to do that for websites as well. So people don't need to go searching through your website for content that they're looking for. They can ask the chatbot, hey, what's your privacy policy? What's your pricing? What's going on with my shipping order? It's a chatbot that you can put on your website in less than 5 minutes, and it handles information that you want to give to the user, as well as lead generation for the business side. So you can make sure that you're getting the right customers for your business.
When you created this platform, how did you come about with the pricing model? What were the drivers? Like, if I make widgets, I go, okay, widget, raw supply costs so much. I got to assemble it, labor cost, and then hardware to bring it together, so much. And then you have to, what you call occupancy costs or overhead costs to house all this and warehouse it, the whole 9 yards. In the AI space or in software space, you have to craft it, sandbox it, meaning you trial it out and then put it into release mode. How do you structure the pricing? Because sometimes it's like a painting, right? You're looking at, you go into the art gallery going, I wouldn't have paid that. But if you have a different perspective on things, so how do you grab that number? How do you come with an answer that fits good?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of factors. I've tried usage-based pricing in the past with different products, but with businesses, I think they're not really happy with usage-based pricing. They want to know how much it's going to cost upfront. Cost is also a factor. There are costs for using the AI tools behind the scenes. So we just have to make sure that there's limits on whichever plans that we've created, and then make sure that our pricing is just a little above that. Competitors have similar pricing to how we've priced it. And the fourth factor is, since we're targeting small to medium-sized businesses, we don't want to make it so expensive that they're going to say, no, this is too expensive for me. I've just started out. I'm not sure that I can afford this option here. So it's at a very cheap price of $19.99 a month, which is very affordable for businesses who are just starting out, who still don't have a lot of customers or are still looking for customers and still need that boost to their website, that added professionalism of having a chatbot that can facilitate information, customer service, as well as lead generation.
What one piece of advice would you give a solopreneur who wants to pull back the curtain and look at installing AI as solutions?
Yeah, I'd say always start with the problem. Something I've always seen happening is that people are very excited about AI and they're using it as a solution for the wrong problem. So, for example, one example that I've seen is issues with data. They thought, okay, we can create a chatbot that can fix our issues with our data and help users understand our e-commerce website. But the issue was not something that would be solved with a chatbot. They just needed to better clean their data so that they had better data that the chatbot could use. That's usually what I see in business. One business I saw is in the solar industry, where they were interested in creating a chatbot that will talk to their clients and disseminate information. But they wanted to start with the chatbot. But did they go to the clients and ask, hey, is this information something you're looking for? The answer is no. They don't really care about that information. Really, what they cared about more was an alert and monitoring system that will send them an alert if their solar panel isn't working. But they wanted to put AI in there because it sounds really cool to have a chatbot interface and that you can chat with it. But really, they just needed an alert system. I see a lot of that happening for entrepreneurs, is that they just want to put AI into all of their systems, even when it's not needed. And really, it's more about the problem, and that can be solved with things without AI.
Why do we not hear about hallucinations as much as we used to?
Oh, they still exist. They've gotten a lot out of it. No, it still happens. There are a lot more advanced ways to reduce the amount of hallucinations, such as dual generations and verifying it. So there's definitely a reduction in it, but you're still going to have cases. For example, about 6 months ago, a Chevrolet's chatbot agreed to a deal giving away a free Chevrolet. or the Delta Airlines chatbot reciting incorrect terms for their return policy, and someone finding out later that it's just not true. So they still happen in these big companies who have hired experienced AI engineers, but they still exist because it's one of the hardest problems to solve.
In your web indexer, how do you market the new product? Like, when I look out every once in a while, I see on Instagram, here's an AI for $7.99 or one-time fee, and I'm sitting there going, well, that looks interesting. Not at my desktop, and I'm not going to pull it into my thing, but I'm going, it looks like I should follow up. At a certain point, it's okay. I'm overwhelmed. The fire hose is on and I'm wet. How do you promote your product? And how do you make your product stand out from the rest of the fish in the sea?
At this stage, since the product is so early, I'm not doing ads. I'm reaching out manually on LinkedIn Sales Navigator as well as cold emails. I want to have that personal touch for now, and I make sure that the product is delivering what people are wanting and that the value is there. So yeah, it's primarily about finding the right audience. I'm mostly looking at small to medium-sized businesses with the title of founders and owners, or people who have recently changed jobs. Another potential audience that I've had a bit of success in is clients who are creating websites for people because they can offer my chatbot as an additional feature. So to differentiate myself, it's very hard from a chatbot perspective because it's a very flooded market and there are some very good chatbots out there. Some of them charge on the enterprise scale of $60,000 plus, $100,000 plus, and so they don't apply to small businesses. There are cheaper options that do charge $20, but usually what they do is they have the basic package of $20 and the more expensive package of $800. They hide the features such as, oh, you can adjust the appearance, but you can only adjust the appearance if you buy the $800 package. Branding is really important for a small business. It doesn't make sense to have a blue and black chatbot when you have a pink website. It'll just look strange. But so they force you to buy the $800 package. And then the other competitor is the website providers that also provide a chatbot on their own, such as Wix, SiteChat, as well as Go High Level. But they are also more expensive as they charge per message. The differentiating factor is the pricing is much cheaper, and we offer all the features straight up because my overhead is very low, so I don't need to offer expensive packages.
What are you doing now or going to be doing in the future that the clients have you doing that didn't occur to you when you started?
Bernie recently suggested that I attend a ton of demos by the Ottawa network, and that was very valuable. I got amazing feedback from everybody there. One of the biggest things was to put a lead magnet on the website instead of having a try now button. Instead, I have a input where you can just put your domain and it does everything that the website is supposed to do on the landing page. Putting the product on the landing page had a significant boost to the analytics, and a lot of people have tried it now. Yeah, that was one of the things that I learned. Another thing was just to do with layout and navigation. I came at it from a very developer perspective. I had a deploy button because it had statuses for every single process that was happening, because I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I want to know what's going on at all times. But from a user perspective, they don't really care about that. They just want to see, okay, what do I need to do? What are the exact steps that I need to do to make the chatbot, and how do I put it on my website? I don't really care about anything else. So that was also another eye-opening thing for me, is that I need to look at it from the perspective of a user who doesn't care about the tech.
I've been told that the difference between a really interesting toy and an amazingly useful tool is in the prompt engineering work.
That's true. I would disagree with that. I think the value behind the actual product is what's most important. If you're trying to do something and the language model is failing at it, yes, it's an issue with prompt engineering. But whether it's a toy or a project, as long as it's delivering the value that it's supposed to, that's a question of prompt engineering. But what makes it a valuable project is that it's solving the problem. So I'd say it's more about the problem than how the problem is being solved, which is prompt engineering.
So how do you stay ahead of the curve yourself? It's almost like you've done the apprenticeship like a blacksmith, understanding the craft of coding. As time wears on, 5 years from now, something else will pop up, whether it's something gets attached to a smart device, IoT devices, virtual reality, or headsets. How do you stay in the game? Or at a certain point, you say, listen, this is my niche. Do you look at horizon, or is it something you just grow into?
Yeah, it's not easy. Every time I talk to someone who is also in the space, I end up learning something new. But that's the only way to keep learning, is that if you keep talking to people who are in a similar space or in a space that you want to learn more about, there's so much information out there. There's so many industries. It can be overwhelming at times, especially within the AI industry, because there's been a lot of times when somebody will mention something and I'm like, yeah, I've never even heard of that. And then it turns out to be this very popular tool that's very useful. So there's always going to be cases like that because the internet has boomed and there's so much information out there. But I'd say is just to go to events and keep talking with people who are also in that space. And that's the best way to learn.
Is there a kind of, let's say if you're talking dentistry or medicine, usually there's a governing body. And I know that there isn't one for this, but is there a group or a series of organizations that are touchstones? Now, how much of it is vaporware versus reality? Because we've encountered somebody saying, oh, I can do all kinds of things. And I try out the platform and all of a sudden it's failing. And then all of a sudden they've lost interest in their project. And they're like, oh, no, that's learned a lesson. I didn't invest any money and I stopped. But you as a developer, when you're putting out a serious product and yours is working, where's the gauge? Where's the metric to base things on, baseline?
Yeah, I don't think there's an external metric that measures those sorts of things. It really comes down to our customers realizing that it's bullshit or not. And even with like Amazon had this issue where they had the walkout checkout where they could just not even pay for a product. They could just walk out with the product and would pay. It turned out that it was just a bunch of people in India looking at their camera. It's fair because you need to first make that training data in order to train a model on it. So to a degree, it was supposed to be like that. But I don't think it ever got to a stage where it was just a model running it. And so it just ended up being unsustainable for the business to keep up with that fake product. And yeah, I would say it's naturally self-balancing because either the customers realize that it's not doing what the company's claiming it can do, or the business is saying, okay, we can't support this. We don't have enough money, so we're going to shut it down. And that's the metric that would be used to judge whether something is bullshit or not.
I understand shiny objects. I really do. But what is being automated? What is actually the entrepreneur getting quicker or better or with less hours than he did before AI?
Yeah, that's a great question because one of the things that everybody touts about is AI is automating my entire life. I don't need to go to work. I don't need to do anything anymore. Everything's just done by my AI. I think it's true to a degree, but everybody's experience with AI is always so different. There's some people who are saying they can code entire applications with no prior experience. And then there's other people saying, oh, here's my local host, which is something you can only access on your computer. And they're sharing it with everybody saying, check out my application. And so there's vastly different experiences with AI. Some of the things that I've seen are very specific workflows. For me personally, I have automated social media videos that I'm using to build an audience. My coding environment is pretty much all AI that has allowed me to function as a solopreneur to be able to build out these products, as well as automating outreach. So being able to having an agent go and script the internet to look for potential leads and then send automated emails based on their company profile. So there's very specific things that you can do with AI that are very good for that sort of stuff. But it depends a lot on that person is and what they're doing.
I find it fascinating how you describe that. It makes a lot of sense, but you also have to have some sort of base knowledge. If I go to buy a car, do I put a hydraulic system on the back of the car? No, I have to buy a truck if I have a box. You have to have a sense of what things go together and what things don't. And one of the things sometimes looking at it going, well, how does that work when you say AI and it's sitting on my computer? Is it sitting on my computer, operating on my computer? Does it have to be cloud-based? Those components. So for example, the web indexer, I know it's in the cloud and it's attached to my website and it works. But if I wanted to automate something inside my office space, almost like Zapier, where it tells, well, I see this transaction happening. I know these are the next 10 steps. How do you sort out going, looking at this, how does this fit in? You don't want to show up with a snowplow for your little Honda Civic. These things don't go together. How do you sort that out? Where do you get that baseline knowledge? Is there a place?
Yeah, I'd say there's different requirements. Honestly, the best way to learn is to ask ChatGPT, but you still also have to verify that the information and that everything you're reading makes sense to you. But it's a great learning resource if you want to get into that. Generally, yeah, how I would approach it is for pretty much any AI product, you always start with the cloud provider for a language model. You rarely want to run anything locally. You can if you want to, but it's just unnecessary. And always try to use an open source solution, Llama models, because if you're going to use OpenAI or Google, there's no guarantee that they're not going to change their models anytime in the future. And I've experienced that in the past when suddenly the responses are degraded or changing completely from what we were expecting. And then we just have to find a way to deal with it. Depends a lot on the product you're looking for. If you want to run things all locally, then you can do, but you're going to expect a lot more work to be put into it because the interface is the hardest part in dealing with language models. You know, you can say, okay, if the language model outputs open this file, then on your computer, it'll open that file. But defining those abstractions, defining all the tools and making sure that the language model is you calling them at the right times, that's the hard part. That's what takes a lot of time to do.
One of the big questions I have you had to go into the future and kill a liquid metal robot?
Not yet, but they've potentially come back here and maybe they're the ones setting all this in motion. Maybe Sam Altman is actually one of those liquid robots.
A different perspective. So for people, you've done different ventures in launching a program, Web Indexer being one of them. What advice would you have for someone that says, listen, I've got a brainchild, I see a problem, identified it, know what the cure is, I can do this, this will bring happiness to people. I might be in the niche market, either no one else does it or price point, several different factors might play into it. What advice would you give someone who says, that's an idea, and today the epiphany came to me and now I'm at my keyboard clicking away? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I'd say don't worry about anything other than talking to customers about your idea and finding customers who will be honest with you. There's a nice little test called the mom test, and you don't actually describe your product. You just go and ask the people who could potentially have that problem and just ask them about their problems. If they happen to describe a problem that your product fits, then you're in the money. So yeah, the users always come first. It doesn't matter. You can think about the price, you can think about how you're going to do it, but if you have an idea, go and try to validate it right away. And you can do so by just creating a landing page and adding webindexer.app to your website because it can manage leads as well. And then going out and talking to people and say, hey, is this something you would buy? Or, hey, tell me your problems. And then finding out if one of your solutions matches that problem. So yeah, validating your idea is always the first step. I see a lot of people who have an idea and they're not really sure where to go about it. They'll get incorporated, set up a bank account. I've done that in the past too, and I didn't validate my idea. And that's the most important part. Making sure that your idea will actually be bought by somebody is the most important thing and the first that you need to do.
Let's assume one of our listeners is your perfect customer. What problem are they solving by meeting you?
I'm happy to talk AI at any point. If they have any questions, I can answer that, as well as offer advice on how to implement AI solutions to solve certain problems. I do offer some other products as well. I did lead generation for a buddy of mine. So he works at a car wrap shop, and I used an AI agent to generate a bunch of leads and got information about those. I do lead generation as well, and I'll also offer Web Indexer, which if you need a chatbot for your website that reduces customer service queries by up to 80% and can improve lead generation by 30%. That's also a product that is useful for customers.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Wayne's looking for who's going to make the sandwich for lunch.
Those are the robots, hopefully coming soon.
The good ones, right?
The liquid ones, yeah.
Yeah. If someone is looking to reach out to you and they go, hey, I want to know more about Web Indexer. Either I want to apply it to my space, to my network group, etc., or lead generation. Who do you reach out to and solve their problems for them and put a smile on their face?
I'm visiting a lot of networking events now and talking to small business owners and saying, hey, I have this product that is very useful to you as you're starting out. If you're getting visitors and you're not really sure why they're not staying on your website or why they might not be interested in your product, there's a chatbot that can answer all their questions and prompt them for more information. If anybody's looking to contact me, my email is rahel.gunaratne@gmail.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Rahel Gunaratne, or you can check out my website at rahelgunaratne.com. So there's a myriad of ways you can contact me, whether that's to talk about AI or a problem that you're having, or if you just want to chat also.
Excellent. And what's the name of your website, Web Indexer? What's that?
It's webindexer.app.
Perfect. I want to say thank you to Rahel, my co-host Wayne Pratt. You, the Knack for Business listeners. You have a question about AI? Rahel can guide you in that path. And if you need something, an application for your website that'll help answer questions, basically save you time on the phone and make responses happen 2 a.m, no matter where you're at, you're probably asleep. Let the Web Indexer provide that answer for your clients and make them happy and keep that lead going.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.